It's about that time. We'll get started. Thank you all for coming. This is the last Leaders Learning Live webinar series of the fall semester. So we saved the best for last, right? So our webinars, first off, I should introduce myself for those that are on the webinar that don't know me. I'm Marissa McCasty. I'm the Leadership Development Manager here at the SUNY Sale Institute, where we provide professional and leadership development for faculty, staff, and students across the system. And one of the offerings is this webinar series. It is free. We love free things. And so today we have Dr. Kathleen Gradel, a professor from SUNY Fredonia, Dr. Chris Price, Academic Programs Manager and at the SUNY Center for Professional Development, and Dr. Adam Rich, which I'll let you introduce yourself and your roles in just a minute. And just so that everybody knows, the webinars are every third Thursday of the month, so please join us at that time come 2020, and it's at noon to 1 every third Thursday. So Kathleen has a lot of experience. She is a professor in the College of Education at SUNY Fredonia, and I'm not going to quite do it justice, so I'll let her kind of elaborate on her expertise, but she has a lot of expertise in the SUNY online, open SUNY, online learning space, and as well as you will find out, in grants and grants management. So Kathleen, would you be able to just introduce yourself for the folks that are on the call?
I probably know a lot of you, and some of you I know from the way distant past. So, and I have to tell you something. If you want to take a nap, this is a great time to do it. I've had people say to me, would you just talk to me so I can go to sleep? At any rate, that's my claim to fame. My current position as of the next semester is Interim Director of Grants and Sponsored Programs here at Fredonia, which is one of the many shifts that are happening on our campus. So it's kind of nice to be in the grants world here at Fredonia, because I haven't been for quite some time. I work a lot in our first year program with future teachers, and also doing faculty development here at Fredonia. I started out as a doctoral student working the Xerox machine, copying grants that went in. I think that's an important piece that we all probably want to keep in mind, is there are lots of ways to learn the trade, and usually you're going to make your own pathway. So I was lucky enough in my doctoral program to work with an excellent grant writer, a couple of excellent grant writers, and several people that did reviewing for grants. So I got tied into that right away. That was probably my very best initial learning curve, and then just jumped into writing little to big grants, working for states and nonprofits and universities, and sometimes ghostwriting, sometimes writing stuff for myself and with teams. So all kinds of funding sources in the past, Department of Labor, NIDER, McDonald's Children's Charities Foundation, Mitsubishi Electric America. So from foundations to federal, I do think that it is that one of the things we try to do in this course, and I'll hit on it in a minute, is there is no magic, there is no gene for grant getting, but there is kind of a practice that you develop regardless of the thing you're going after. And I learned that early on from my different partnerships with people. So looking forward to talking with you all.
Thank you. And Chris, if you could just introduce yourself and just talk a little bit about the Center for Professional Development.
Sure. Hey, everyone. My name is Chris Price. I'm the Academic Programs Manager at the SUNY Center for Professional Development. I'm actually based out of Rochester. I work remotely. I have an office at MCC downtown campus, but I'm actually in the CPD today, since we're having our sort of holiday lunch, and so I trekked out in the throughway here. The things that I do at the CPD are our academic programs are a lot of our online courses that are targeted to faculty and staff. So the grants course is one of them. We also have programs on teaching and learning for new faculty, programs in assessment of learning, and also institutional effectiveness. And we just launched a new certificate on diversity, equity, inclusion in teaching and learning. And so all the courses that we offer in the area I'm in are online, asynchronous, typically 6 weeks, although the grants course is 12 weeks, and really meant to sort of fit into the busy schedules of faculty and staff. And so my email I'll throw out there in a bit. So if you have any questions about any of our programs or about this program, just shoot me an email.
Mm-hmm.
We do other things at the CPD too. We organize this conference on instruction and technology, the CIT conference. We have technical programs for people who work on servers and those sort of things. We have all sorts of wide variety of programs. So again, any questions about the CPD, let me know. And we do have points that are available to people on many campuses that they can use to pay for our programs. And if you're a member, a CPD campus member, you have a person that manages those points. And so on our website, which I'll throw the link in there as well, you could find out who those people are.
Great, thank you. And Dr. Adam Rich, can you just introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm a professor in biology here at the College at Brockport. I'm now the director for undergraduate research, but I took this course a couple of years ago, and I was really impressed. I've had some success in grant writing, but I felt I was worried about sort of my next swing at bat. So I decided to take the course to really work on my skills, and it was a great confidence booster for me.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here, and we'll talk more about the Write It and They Will Fund course in a little bit. What I would like to do is start off with a poll and see where everyone is coming from. So let's do this. All right, so we're asking, what brought you to this webinar today? If there are other answers besides ones that are provided here, please feel free to type them in the chat. And for our second question, what is your grant writing experience? Okay, I think most people, give another couple seconds here. Okay. Okay, so it looks like 56% of our listeners are here to learn about the grant writing course. You've come to the right place. And 31% are hoping to hear from others with grants experience, and 13%, and we'll look in the chat in just a second, have another reason for being here. And no one said that they have been tasked with securing grant funding on their campus, which is interesting. Okay, so let's see here. And did anyone write in the chat? Don't be shy.
All right, I will.
Okay. Okay. So Kathleen said, show me the money. And then Adam said, I feel pretty sure that we are all tasked with grant writing, which is true.
Especially in the sciences, there is expectation, I think, on most campuses. If you want equipment, you fund it. So you find your money and you fund it. Adam is a lab concierge. How's that for a title? But you see that across campuses, don't you, Adam?
Oh yeah, everywhere. And it's really, if you need a good microscope or even just reagents, the campuses have a little bit of money, but if you want to do substantial stuff, you really need to go out and find that money yourself. And that's just how it goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And for question 2, what is your grant writing experience? We have 50% of our listeners don't have any. And then 38% have some, 13% have a good amount, but no one has labeled themselves an expert.
Nor would I.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for participating in that. It gives us a better understanding of who all is in the room. Okay. So I guess I'll start out by asking Chris, what are some important questions about how to how would I register for this? How much does it cost? And actually, and maybe Kathleen and Chris, you can both talk about this. If you could give a little bit of a summary about what the course is and what folks can expect if they are registering for the course. Oh, I think people are muted.
Uh-oh.
Sorry, I was muted. Yep.
Okay.
So I put 2 links into the chat. One is the long link to the grants page, but if you forget that, which you will because it's long, if you just go to suny.edu/grants course, you'll get there as well. If you look on that page, basically describes the course, the learning outcomes. Again, I want KG to talk about those things since she's the one who teaches it. But you can look at that all there. And as I said earlier, this course does go over 12 weeks. And again, she has very good reasons for that, which I'm sure she'll talk about as well. Basically, it's not for credit course. I think that's important to say. Sometimes our courses do look a lot like for credit courses. I mean, I describe them as at the content level of a graduate course, but the amount of work, again, is realistically pitched to those who are working full-time jobs or have the job of a faculty member teaching 3, 4, 5 courses a semester. So we make sure that it's realistically it's realistic that you'll have the time to complete the course. To register, if you go, there's a cost and payment button. Well, it tells you what it costs. So right now, if your campus is a CPD member, it costs $275. If your campus is not a CPD member, it's $325. And again, if you're a CPD member, you can get in touch with the person who is your campus points contact, and that person can let you know if there are points available on your campus to pay for it. This iteration of the course that starts January 7th, the SUNY Research Foundation has made 5 scholarships available. I just checked with Jennifer here in our office, and she says she thinks that only 4 of them have been actually given out so far, or at least applied for. So I'm going to give you a link also in the chat to the RF page, which describes how to apply for one of the scholarships. So, again, if you're interested in signing up for the course that begins January 7th, definitely sign up. And, if it's a first come, first serve kind of situation. So they certainly have probably gotten at least, like I said, 4 applications for a scholarship so far. So that's there. All the information you need for that is on that webpage. And then to register, it's basically, you just go to that site and use your, we use single sign-on. So you would use your SUNY campus ID and password to get into our system. And then the course dates for 2020 are all listed there. So if you're not interested in the January 7th course, courses begin May 19th, and then again on August 25th. And I think that's all I want to say. Are there any questions about registration or anything logistically that you want to know about the course?
If you do have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat.
All right, seeing none, I'm going to mute. Pass the mic.
Okay, thank you, Chris. So, Kathleen, can you talk a little bit about the course and when does it start? Who usually takes the course?
Adam's here as my witness, so I'm going to try to be really on the money here. Every cohort, and usually I'm going to say about 15 people, Chris, sign up each time.
Yeah, the cap is at 15. You've been nice enough to sometimes accept more than that, but the cap is 15. So beyond that, it's your discretion.
And about 10 people hang on. I would say that's the average. So this is a fully online course. Some folks have never participated in a fully online course, and that alone can be off-putting. And also the mesh between when you register and what's happening in your real life can make a huge difference. So some people start and then don't finish, may carry on to the next semester. We offer that option for people that are in that situation. But it's 12 weeks long, like Chris said. So every week, and I'm going to say after the first week, every week is kind of like a bookend situation. So we read some chapters in the course text, we explore options, and then every other week you apply the stuff to your own project, your own ideas, your own campus, your own priorities. Then the following week, I ask everyone to have posted to a discussion forum, not in the usual way. You know, usually on these online courses from SUNY, it's post twice, reply to everybody. I'm kind of being facetious here, but I do expect people to post and respond to at least one person. I find that people typically respond to almost everyone, or at least several people, because they're interested in what other people are doing. So the forums are actually places where we don't just talk about things, but we post our work. So as we move further into the course, we're writing short sections of a proposal, very short, not a big long thing. And then we act as a, if you will, informal peer review panel, where we read each other's stuff and make public comments to each other. We have this mantra: what happens in Blackboard stays in Blackboard. So what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. And if people want to put copyright or Creative Commons license on their stuff, just as an added protection, or a non-disclosure statement, any of that is totally fine. However, that pattern is repeated about 4 or 5 times over the course of the 12 weeks as we move through the content. And we find people doing amazingly individualistic stuff, not just around funding sources, but from everything from, you know, retrofitting space to doing heavy duty research proposals to actually doing proposals for not grants, but funding outside of their campus that might be more contract based, to just sorting out what are my priorities and how do I go about it on A to Z stepwise process to figure out what to do. So we have people that are experienced, and we have people who heard that grants were a great ticket to doing good work. So we have everything. We have people that are sometimes not associated with SUNY, but tangentially, for example, contingent faculty or school district people. And then we have folks who have been around forever. Look at my hair. And then we have folks somewhere in between who may have transitioned to a different position and are facing like a huge resource gap that they need to fill, or that their campus wants them to fill. Most of the time people are there not because they've been asked to be there, but because they have elected to be there. And I think that is a huge opportunity for folks since folks aren't there on assignment, if you will. So that's kind of the big map.
Great, thank you. And before I get to my next question, Renee had a question about grants available. Are there grants available for the academic support offices such as ours, career services?
So let me just put it this way. There are grants available for almost anything, right? It's a matter of finding them and being competitive in the process. So we have had people from support services identify gaps that they had. A couple of cohorts ago, there were actually 2 people, I think, from one campus that were looking at retrofitting the entire advisement process. And underneath that, they knew that there was going to need to be lots of training and retraining and more training. And they didn't have the resources right off the bat to do that. So that was what they were shooting for. We've had people look at their interesting projects and say, I don't really need money to do this. I need release time. I need, those things that are less tangible. But just beginning to think about those concretes, like Renee is bringing out, is part of that process. So in the first 3 weeks, we spent a lot of time talking about what are our interests and what does your campus do to help support you in grant getting or in fund getting or even using seed money from your own campus. So we try to make it, it's not like you're coming to find out the funding source that's going to answer all your questions, but you're going to have some doors open to explore those resources on your own and with partners. Adam, what do you think? Is that a good statement? Am I telling the truth, Adam?
Yes. Yes. I think there were, my experience is all in science. And I think in the year I took it, or my group, I may have been the only scientist in that group, or maybe one other at the most. So it was, that was interesting for me.
Yeah, you had actually in your cohort, you did have someone who was interested in, was in the academic support area.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And was going after conversations in the disciplines, a SUNY proposal.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
Remember?
Yeah.
Sarah was
Remember
doing
that. Yep.
Great. And it sounds like Renee in the chat said that she'd like to learn more. So that's a good thing. So I know you covered it a little bit as far as the flow of the course, but could you talk a little bit about what specific sections will be covered in the course and what's the demand on the participants' time?
And this is where we get to have Adam actually tell the truth here. So the advertisement says around, I think it says about 2 hours a week. I've this semester been participating as a learner in the SUNY CPD Faculty Guild process, and they say it's 2 hours a week too. I have actually never taken an online course for professional development that was 2 hours a week. But that's me, and so you tailor your pace to what you want to do. Every single week, there are lots of extra things to explore. However, the bare minimum would take, I would say, about 2 hours. If you're a speed reader, reading 3 little chapters out of our textbook would not be a big deal, but then doing something with them does take time. We try to pace the doing in the alternate weeks so that people can have some focus on. But, you go down a rabbit hole. You say, oh, let me spend more time at grants.gov. How exciting. I don't need to go out to the movies. I love this government site. I want to spend my entire Saturday night exploring this. Adam is laughing. So seriously, it's we see an awful lot of time ebb and flow. And I think the grant allows for that. There's no late penalties at all. But we do encourage people to, if they're gone for a week or two, to come back, catch up, because the conversation between each other. You know, I know you hear this all the time, but I think that is of great value in this course.
Great. And we did have a question in the chat. Are the general limitations for SUNY grants for adjuncts, or is it on a case-by-case basis? Meaning, how much opportunity is there for adjuncts to apply and receive grants?
Some campuses actually have rules that say you can. Thank you so much, Chris.
Yes, thank you, Chris. Enjoy your holiday party.
Yeah, thanks. And one thing I will say really quickly is that, you know, for some system-wide grants, like the Innovative Instruction Technology Grant Program, adjuncts are just as eligible as full-time faculty, so long as they have the support of their campus. So with that, I'll say goodbye. Take care, everyone.
Take care.
And that's a good example. Certain SUNY grants are way more accessible to every title on your campus. So that's an important thing to think about. We always remind people about IITG because that isn't a nice gateway for people that don't have experience and may want to address some major resource needs on their campus. They're small grants or whatever, but it does kind of get your feet under you and definitely asks you to collaborate with people on your campus and maybe elsewise. Oh my gosh, Renee. That's scary.
Yes. Couple years.
In my last job before I came to Fredonia, my boss was one of my first master's students. That's what happens when you're around for a long time.
Well,
Right?
I might be, you know, it's been a couple years. I'd have to check my transcripts, but I really do. I think I know you.
Okay. This is.
And I ended up at SUNY Erie, so you know, we did good. You did good.
We crossed paths. So
Yeah, in the pudding. So
back to the contingent question, your campus may say you may or may not go after X, Y, or Z unless you are partnering with a tenured faculty or this or that or the other thing. So sometimes campuses have requirements.
Well, we do have a grants department entirely, but my boss is just wanting me to have this knowledge because I am, you know, I've developed a lot of professional writing over the years. So, you know, and I love to learn. So it's time to learn again.
This kind of learning is kind of nice because sometimes there's monetary payoff. Although I have to say, my son, when he was growing up, my son is 43, said, "Ma, are we going to get any pennies out of that grant?" And he didn't even know what a grant was. He just knew I was always working on a grant. And I would say, maybe a penny or two, but usually it is not for us, sweetie. It is for, you know, and he would say, "Oh dear."
That's cute. I would like to open it up for Adam to speak about your experience and how you felt the course was as far as the demand and just your overall experience taking the course.
So, yeah, that's a good question. When I started, I was, I guess, a little bit apprehensive because I had never taken an online course. Like many professors, I thought online can't be as good as face-to-face. And I just didn't know what it would be like. I didn't know if, you know, I like the personal connection, and I thought that would be lacking. And I have to say, when it was done, I was really, really happy. I felt really engaged. I liked the pace. I felt like I learned a lot. I felt like, I really felt like I met people and got to know them. In fact, a couple of years or a year after that course, Kathleen, we met at CIT, and I really, I wanted to meet you because, just because I really enjoyed the course. So I think the format's good, and the online aspect of it is actually good because you do your own work and then you interact, and it can be asynchronous. I was also really, really concerned that there was no way in the world I had time for it. And the truth
My
is,
concern.
as a faculty member, in the spring, I teach a course with over 300 students and there's a lab. In the fall, I teach a couple other courses. I have an active research lab and it's sort of nuts. However, I knew I needed to get in the game, and grant writing and writing in general was always coming last. So I decided to try. And what happened is it kind of worked. And when it worked really well, I was spending some time every week. I sort of fell off the wagon for probably 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks at one point during the semester. But I got back on, and I think it really helped me get over some inertia and some fears of writing. I don't know how it is for other people, but sometimes you want to be too perfect. And that's not one of the choices. There's no checkbox for perfect. We just have to do something. And I was really pleased. I was able to, by the end of it, write a whole proposal, and I submitted it. It didn't get funded, but I have to say I was just so happy with myself because I felt like I was productive, and that's huge. So I would say I didn't spend 2 hours a week. I mean, I would probably do most of the work on a Saturday or a Sunday. When things went well, I would get online maybe once or twice during the week. My problem is when I don't do that, I forget where all the buttons are, and I forget where CPD is. And whether you go to Blackboard or an online portal or wherever, that becomes a challenge. So I think really regular activity is good. And then of course the book is excellent. I'm reading that and then reflecting, and then doing a writing activity was really outstanding, I thought. Is that what you're after, Marissa?
Yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic. And if anyone has any questions for Adam, feel free to put them in the chat.
Yeah, I'll put my email address as well. And just so everybody knows, it probably doesn't matter at all, but before I took this course, I had really good success with grant writing. And it turns out I had a big research grant before I came to Brockport. Then after coming to Brockport, I had 2 more grants funded, all 3 by the NIH. So really substantial dollars. And then I had an IITG award that was funded. And then I wrote a renewal for my NIH grant, and that was the first one ever that didn't get funded. And everyone who writes grants is really familiar with failure. And I definitely is or was, but I have to say that was the first time that I applied to NIH that I really failed. And it was a really tough blow for my confidence. I was really anxious, and it is hard for me to get back in the game. And that was a big reason I took the course, I think. And I guess the other thing I should say, I never had any formal training in writing or grant writing. I'm a scientist, and somehow magically we're supposed to know how to do this stuff. I didn't know what do we call it? An active style or active writing is. All I knew is I knew something. If I read something that was good, I knew it. And I knew when I read something that was boring. And I didn't know how to structure sentences. I didn't really know the difference. And I just knew it was good when I would see it. And sometimes I could do it. Sometimes I couldn't. And the course helps you with that. It specifically helps you with that style and this notion that grant writing is different than teaching or different than writing a manuscript.
Boy, Adam, I just wrote it into the chat. One of the big ideas about writing grants is that it's not strictly academic and it's not creative writing. You're making an ask. It is different. And that getting over that thing, because when we write for those big federal grants, we are using a taste of our academic preparation, right? We're doing that research review, we're stating our hypotheses and all that. But the scientists who are successful know full well that even their proposal, even if they put it in for the priority It's going to be matched to a panel that's got some experts on it who are going to be familiar, kind of familiar, maybe familiar with your line of research. You still have to be able to convey your ideas and your significance. That's the big thing, in language that people who are not expert, truly expert, will understand and believe. And so we do that practice. I have not had, with one cohort, I have not had anyone be disrespectful in any way as they've given feedback or received feedback about their work. It has been, I can't say enough about how collegial every cohort is, even if you don't really understand what the person is saying, because when we try to decode what the person is writing about, we are asking questions that help the person be a better writer and convey ideas. So there's not a whole lot of magic to it. It's a lot of practice. You know, grant writing can have the thrill of the hunt. Oh boy, you know, let's go after that and get it. But basically, there's an awful lot of grunt work in it that can be boring, and it's definitely time consuming, etc. And when we go into our grant writing caves, lots of times it is a cave. This course is not a cave. It's a cave, but we've got some friends in the cave with us, so we have our tribe in there. And I think that's an important, like Adam says, kind of a boost. You know, it's way less insular, even though you're looking at your own projects and interests. And to be able to do that in today's world, when we have so much on our plate and so many demands, I think it's a huge opportunity. And I'm always impressed by people's commitment to both the things they want and each other. So
Yeah,
I sound like I'm making a sermon, but I'm not.
Along those lines, Adam, would you say that you have been able to stay connected to the people that were in the course with you, your cohort?
No, I haven't. I would have liked to, and I had planned to after it, but I really didn't. And I suppose that's one of the downsides of this job. I just feel like you know, there's always 4 pots boiling on the stove, and I hope it's not my personality, because I like to work with people. That's my favorite way to work. And this course I liked really because for me, I like writing the best when it's like a team sport. So sometimes, you know, just sitting with another person and writing a sentence and talking about it and then writing it and then rewriting it, that's my favorite way to do things. I think the give and take in the course is like that. And of course it's collegial. But sadly, no, I didn't stay connected with people.
And
People's lives really do take over. We have had an interesting phenomenon. Some people register for the course and don't realize the person across the hall or across campus are also on the course, and they find out in the first week. That has been a great experience, because some people can do what Adam described, participate together, even though it's asynchronous, and then continue to work together afterwards. And that happened this past summer with about 3 faculty members who signed up, one in one cohort, one in another, but then they got together and actually submitted a couple of proposals together after the fact. That is kind of a misconception too sometimes people have about our course, and that is that you're going to write a grant from start to finish. You're not. You may come in with one, you may come in with a great idea or a rejection or whatever, but we actually start out with our grant titles. To be, as an example, when Adam said it's nice to tinker around a sentence, we start out with our grant titles and an elevator pitch. An elevator pitch is key points about why your grant will make a difference, as if you were riding up the elevator with your program officer. And just thinking about the words and the message to get started has been powerful. Not that you won't change that a million times, but before your thing goes out the door, whatever the thing is, but beginning to have that conversation around those words and making sure the words are not fluffy, not creative, to the point, match the mission of the funder, all the things that we learn about become part of the habit of mind that we're working on as we move along. Is it Sabel or Sable? Oh, they mentioned.
So Renee had a comment too, that Mark Twain received 78 rejections before the wise publisher published. So keeping that in mind, to not lose hope.
Yeah.
And yes, I don't know if I believe it's Sable. I don't know. Are you ever concerned of other people, quote unquote, stealing your grant idea or other people taking credit for the grant you wrote? How do you know what and when to share your ideas and / grant?
So in our circle, yes, thanks, Adam. In our circle, we ask people to pinky swear. And if they don't want to pinky swear, virtually, they can actually write a copyright right on whatever they post. And we have had some people put a copyright or Creative Commons license. I give people guidance on how to do that for the things that they're posting. Am I concerned about that in real life? Yes, I am concerned about it. And I think that people need to be smart about who and what and when they share concepts. I think your grants office needs to be a safe environment where people can come and share ideas and know that grant staff person, that's me now, will not turn around to the next person who comes in for a meeting and says, oh, guess what, Cha-Cha is thinking about doing, why don't we get together? So the message needs to be, I think there may be some other people on the campus who are interested in collaborating. Let's see if we can get you two together and you can share ideas if you want to. That's a different message than saying, there's this hypothesis that Adam's planning on testing in his new NIH proposal. So I think it's important that we ask people, are you ready to share? What are you going to share? That kind of thing. In our grant, it's pretty specific. The first forum, we talk about, what do you know about what's going on your campus? What have you done to find out? Who have you talked to? Do you have a mentor or someone that has experience that you can connect with? The next one, we talk about that elevator pitch and that the grant title. So we move along and we're very specific about what we're sharing and how we're sharing it. It gives some structure without a ton of pressure. You also leave us some grant, some chunks of your product developed along the way that can flesh into a final or into a future work. We do not ask you to write anything near a full proposal. You're basically just writing that initial stuff. You're writing a summary, and we're asking you to identify the significance of your project. And that's the hardest. That is the hardest thing, I think. Adam wrote, almost always a proposal should have a clear and concise message. You should be able to get it out in 1 to 3 sentences in a summary. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Oh, Renee have many questions today.
Don't you remember? I kept you busy.
Here, Adam, you want to tackle that from your perspective? Unmute yourself there.
Approximately, how long does it take to apply for grants?
Yeah.
For me, it's as much time as I have.
Exactly.
So it depends, in science, we need preliminary data, and that can take months or years. And any grants, oftentimes, you have to go through multiple cycles. So you know, you write it and it either gets rejected or doesn't get funded, so you need to try again. And the deadlines, you know, the trick is finding what you want to write for. And then, you know, the deadline, if it's a month away, if it's short, that's okay. But typically you're in trouble. But if you have months like 3, 6, 8, that's better.
Yeah, I think that's my question is like once one goes out, if you know, if I were to start watching, is there a place that we can watch and see if it's pertinent to
Oh, yeah.
what we
So I
could
think
bring to our
almost, I don't
students?
know what campus you're on, but almost every campus has a
And
grants
it's city campus
development
at
office.
SUNY Erie.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they'll have a grants development office. And
Well,
if
we
you,
do.
so contact
Yes,
them
we do.
and they'll push ideas to you. And then they'll also push places that you can look, like grants.gov, that's NIH and NSF, that's for me. I can't remember what Brockport has, but we have a really good grants development office. And if we go on their webpage, they have links. And if Erie doesn't
Okay.
have it, fire me an email and I'll send you those links.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
We try in the course to convince people of what Adam just said, which is even if you are writing something on your own, you may not have a collaboration team. You want, if there is the capacity on your campus to look for grants for you, to help you with budgets, to do X, Y, and Z, you want to know what those services are, and you want to be able to plan ahead to use them. You want a relationship with your grants office. And so that's some of the stuff we reinforce over and over and over again. Let's face it, we all have day jobs, we all have families, we all have whatever. And so if there are some people that can operate and support you in getting the thing located, you know, developed out the door, you want that. On our campus, we've just gone through 6 years of kind of a very fragmented approach to support for grants. And we have seen the result of that, which is very, very low funding. So we're now making an effort to refocus that and not blitz people with like, oh, there's 20 million grants out there, but to find out exactly what people are interested in doing. And
need, I would suppose, where the needs lie on any particular year or school semester.
Yep. Yeah, having
Okay.
a mindset around what the needs are and having some, you know, congruence about that, that would be huge to help your campus go after things.
Well, that's how I operate in every office is the students, they make me grow professionally. And it always seems to be a different theme almost every semester of what I see. It's just kind of funny that way. The development as I see it, if we get them early enough. So there are programs we'd like to be able to bring to them, but we have a tight fiscal year coming up with the county. So, yeah, I'm very interested. I think you sold me. I would like to dedicate some time to this. I think it would be worth time on task for this.
Great. And just being mindful of time here too, I would like to just ask if you have any other information that you think would be helpful for our audience to know, maybe other misconceptions about the course, or and if others have any additional questions that haven't been answered throughout the webinar, if you want to put them in the chat, we're happy to answer those for you.
I think there are two ideas that I think several people come in with, and that is there's a big grant out there just waiting for me, even though, don't laugh out loud there, Adam, right? There's this giant grant that's going to, you know, answer all of our problems, and we're only going to have to go after it once, get it, and then we're going to solve that problem, and we're going to then rest on our laurels. So a lot of people end the course, start that course thinking that. They hear that from experienced grant writers around them. They saw it in their, you know, their training and their preparation. A lot of people end the course thinking exactly what Adam said about a half hour ago, and that is, I need to build my credibility as a fill in the blank scientist, you know, staff developer, whatever my role is. and mesh that with institutional capacity. In order to do that, I may need to go after something that is smaller, more easily reached, et cetera, to build that capacity and that street cred. So a lot of people end up thinking really big. As they end, they think really big, but I have a few stepping stones to get there beforehand. The other misconception is that I'm going to be their grant coach.
Oh, no. I don't have that misconception.
And I'm not, right?
I just want to help.
I can be helpful. Sarah wrote that I'm pretty good at giving feedback and scaffolding and that kind of thing. But I'm not an expert in Adam's area, you know? So I'm going to provide advice around the preparation steps. I'm also going to do it with everybody else in the course, because the more you do it, the more you think about it, the more you give feedback, you're learning at the same time. So, you know, I'm an old special educator, can you tell? So I really think that it's the practice and getting into habits of mind and practice of mind that are involved with writing and thinking in a disciplined way that has long-term payoffs. In grant writing, of course, in life, my husband would laugh at me saying this because I'm so horrible at messing up the kitchen when I cook. I don't plan to the end, but I say, then get in the kitchen and cook. So, so one of the things that we try to reinforce is that you pick your poison. You pick your emphasis for the course. You think about where you are and your campuses and your colleagues are, and develop an individual, we call it a production plan, an individual production plan for yourself. It takes you from now until, you know, just a little bit further out, so that you get the gist of taking steps toward what your goals are. You leave with tons of resources. Sarah points out way too many resources, but that's the other thing, is you have them and you can circle back to them. If you have that habit developed, even for a short period of time, you have more capacity to proceed than on your own and with your colleagues on your own campus. Adam, how's that? Does that ring true?
Yeah, definitely. What I was just starting to type into the chat box is, you know, on our campus, we have small internal grants, and I always structure those as just like a bigger grant. You know, they're shorter, of course. A lot of times they're just 1 or 2 pages, almost always. But the point is, the language and the style, all of that is practice for what I call the big time, you know, and for me, that's NIH. And I just think of it as, you know, I guess they're like voice exercises for singers, you know, it's, that's how you develop your chops and how you maintain them. So I think that's, I don't know of any other way, you know, although I do need to dedicate quite a lot of time in the coming year or two, you know, and I would also say, Renee and anyone else, you sort of have to be in it for the duration, because if you don't get it the first time, you have to try again. Failure is a really common thing. And I think you have to really take pride in trying and having clear ideas. And
Well, Dr. Rich, I'm an expert at that. I've got a lot of experience of getting back in there and
Good.
not giving up.
Yeah.
I attest that to my education at SUNY Fredonia. I have a really special place in my heart for this school. So I feel honored that I was given my preparation at this school with the professors that I've had. So yeah, I won't be afraid to fail. I'll dare to fail at times. That's what makes us better at what we do, I believe. So thank you so much for everyone's time today.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you, Renee.
And I did want to, Kathleen, I know you had responded to Lynn's question. Lynn had asked about any particular resources for novice grant writers. And so Kathleen will recommend some books, and I can share it out with all of the participants on the call today. And also, there's a couple other Oh, okay, yep. And during the course, you all discuss about failed efforts, right?
Yeah, usually that comes up in the very first week and then it gets integrated throughout. And so we talk about strategies. First of all, if you can get the reviewers' comments and trying to not take them personally, which is a huge step, right? What do you mean? You know, and so we talk about if you can get reviewers' comments, what do you do about that? I just spoke with one of my colleagues here on our campus who has applied to, I won't say which, federal agency 3 times in a row, a particular program. And he originally thought it was, the budget was the wrong thing. It just wasn't working. And that's, finally, we talked more and he said, I said, let's take a look at those reviewers' comments. And I said, they're not talking about the budget, buddy. And he said, oh, yeah, I'm thinking maybe our idea is not meshing with the program's priorities. Now, Adam's going to laugh a little bit about that because we talk about that every single week in the course, is matching what you want to do and what your gaps and needs are to what this funder is willing and interested in paying for. But we sometimes have a hard time with that, getting into, you know, the mindset of what the funder is doing. So we use examples, we talk about that a lot. And failure does drive getting back in the game, right, Adam? Failure drives us back into the game.
Yep. And you do, you know, you're asking people for money. You have to give them something that they want. That's really, that's fair. That's fair.
And
That's a good
now
statement,
that,
Adam.
yes, and Adam had said in the chat, from my last NIH submission, I really didn't understand the criticisms for a year. I just concluded that my proposal was junk, but there was a message there. So, and that's I think very important about this course, is that it teaches you that there is that message there. So,
Sometimes
so thank you. I
wonky
want to thank
reviewers,
both
but-
of you for your time today. And I did want to, I have the contact information for, that's me, Marissa McCasty, my email, Kathleen's email, and Adam, I believe you put your email in the chat, right?
I did.
Okay, perfect. So you can find his email there. And we will have our spring 2020 webinar schedule coming soon, so be on the lookout for that. We'll also send it out, as well as having it on our website. And I can, and this is follow us on Twitter. We're always posting different for professional development opportunities, and our website where the webinar schedule will be. Thank you, Kathleen and Adam. It was great to have you, and I hope everyone signs up for the course. It sounds like a great opportunity.
We look forward to seeing you all. And Adam, it was nice to see you today.
Yeah, it was. I'm glad I could help.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Happy New Year, everybody.
Yes.
Happy holidays.
Have a great holiday. And I want to say one thing as we end. Go Bills.
Very good. Could be our year.
I have to tell you though, I do like the Patriots.
Uh-huh.
So
You
this is
do
going to be
now.
a bad weekend, right?
Yeah, exactly. Uh-huh. It is.
Well, you're brave, Adam, in this area.
There is some distance here.
Yes, there is.
Well, whatever team, we root for them all. So
All right.
take
Thanks,
care.
everyone.
Be safe, you all.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.